Now, this is another very important model. This is called the circular flow of income model. The circular flow of income model is a simple model that illustrates some economic concepts and relationships that will help us understand the overall economy. In its simplest version, shown in figure 1.4, the model illustrates a closed economy, meaning it has no links with other countries. It is closed to international trade, and it is also a model of an economy with no government and no banks or financial market. It is assumed that the only decision makers are households, which are us, the consumers, individuals, and firms or businesses. Both are shown in square boxes, as you can see, households, firms. Households are owners of the four factors of production: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. Firms buy the factors of production in resource markets and use them to produce goods and services. They then sell the goods and services to consumers in product markets. We therefore see a flow in the clockwise direction, this way, of factors of production from households to firms and of goods and services from firms to households. In the counterclockwise direction, there is a flow of money used as payment in sales and purchases when households sell their factors of production to firms. So this is a very, very interesting diagram. This is called the circular flow of income model. So we need to really analyze. Really need to be able to analyze this carefully. So here at the top, we see resource markets. To the right, we see firms and businesses. Beneath, we see product markets, and there is households. So now how does this happen? Let's start from households. Households sell land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship, the four factors of production, on their resource. They put it up on the resource markets. And the firms buy the factors of production from the resource markets, while they give costs of production as a means of payment. And then the resource market, and then that gets distributed into each household as income, which is rent, wages, interest, and profit. Now let's match each household income type to factors of production type. Rent would be, you're right, land. Wages would be, you're right again, labor. Interest would be, you're right again, capital. And profit would be to entrepreneurship. Now let's move back to firms and businesses. Firms and businesses put their goods and services onto the product market, which then pays them back in the form of revenues. Then the products are then consumed by households, the goods and services, which are then paid for by household expenditure. So this is how the income circulates around the market and is able to help the market work. So this is a very, 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 I can't emphasize it enough, very important model to understand how the economy works in general terms. Now we will move on. Oh yeah, and it is very important to know that this is not the final form. Most exams in the IB curriculum will not ask you to draw this diagram because this is a very, very basic diagram. We need to add leakages and injections, which are related to international markets. That is a full diagram. So it is noted up here that this diagram is an internal economy. It's a closed economy. Next. What I explained is basically the information listed up here, but I didn't want to read all the bulk. So, yeah. Oops. There you go. Oh, I'll read the yellow box once again. The circular flow of income shows that in any given time period, let's say a year, the value of output produced in an economy is equal to the total income generated in producing that output, which is equal to the expenditures made to purchase that output. Now, adding leakages and injections. The real-world economy is more complicated than this simple model suggests. As I mentioned, we arrive at a closer picture of the real world by adding injections and leakages, also known as withdrawals, to the money flow of 1.4. 1.4 here. To understand what these are, consider a pipe with water flowing through it, as in figure 1.5. As water flows through the pipe, some leaks out. the leakages. While new supplies of water are injected in, the injections, it is the same with the flows of money in the circular flow model. Now let's see what leakages and injections are. Leakages and injections are paired together so that what leaks out of the flow can come back in as an injection. The most important pairs are the following. And now the most important pairs are almost only the pairs you need to know during IB exams. Now, savings can, leakages, the leakage type of savings can be injected back into the economy as a form of investment. Now, how this works is that when individuals save their money, that could be a leakage from the economy, because that means that, individuals are withholding cash or assets in investment types, which means that that money is not being circulated back into the economy. However, that can be later on injected through investments made into the economy. Now they are taking out the cash, they're taking out the money that they had and investing it back into the economy. That would allow money to be injected back into the economy, which will help it run. Taxes. Taxes are a leakage. Taxes are taken out of the economy by the government. However, they're injected back in the form of government spending, let's say public infrastructure or investment in companies or subsidies to large companies. Now, imports and exports. Now, this is where the international market comes in. Leakages as imports, let's say, we are buying more. A country is using their assets into purchasing more imports from another country. That is a leakage because the cash from our economy is leaving our economy. It is going international. However, it can be injected back into our economy in the form of exports. We are exporting our goods internationally. That means international consumers will purchase our goods. So that means international money is coming back into our economy. So that is how you explain exports and imports, taxes and government spending, saving and investment in the form of leakages and injections. Now, this is a correct diagram that the IB curriculum will expect you to be able to draw in exams. There are still households and firms. However, we've put the financial markets, governments, and other countries. Factor incomes. The firms pay factor incomes to households in forms of wages, rents, interest, and profit. As we saw earlier, consumers will, spend on goods and services in the form of consumer expenditure. So now we will talk about the leakages and injections. Now, consumer leakages into the financial markets, savings, however, they're injected back into the market through investments. Taxes to the government. Government spends back. Spending on imports from other countries, which will be spent back on exports. So they are being leaked and injected. It's a very simple way to understand this diagram. Now we will look through. Oh yes, this is a very, very, very important part. This is called the ceteris paribus assumption. This is when all things are kept equal. So we will read this very important excerpt. If our hypothesis is to make sense, we need to also make assumptions. An assumption is a statement that is supposed to be true for the purposes of building the hypothesis. In our example, an important assumption is this: the price of oranges is the only variable that influences the quantity of oranges that Olimoans want to buy, while all other variables that could have influenced their buying choices do not play a role. This is called the ceteris paribus assumption. Ceteris paribus is a Latin expression that means other things equal. Another way of saying this is that all other things are assumed to be constant or unchanging. Now, what this means is that when we are determining the demand for a good, let's say oranges here, we are only assuming that the price of the orange is the only factor that is changing the demand for the orange, the quantity of the orange supplied. We are not considering other external or internal market influences that could have taken the part of controlling the quantity and demand of the orange. That is a very, very important concept, so everyone needs to write that down. Ceteris paribus. These parts are not too important. So, yep. Now this is a very, very, very. Oh yeah, we also covered this. Equity needs fairness. This is right back here. So, very, very important key concept of economics. Equity and equality. Let's see back here. They're not the same as we studied before. Equity, if we come back and reflect, equity is the idea of being fair or just. Equity is not the same as equality, which is the sameness of treatment or outcomes for people or groups of people in a society.